is our weekly live show. It is Georgia, Tennessee week. We're live. It is our um, lead up to the game weekly live show. We're going to do a lot of stuff tonight. Bear with me. It's me on my own tonight. I usually have some really great people with me tonight, but life happens, illness happens, things happen, and the show must go on. So, lot to cover tonight. We're going to put Austin P to bed. If you haven't already done so, go and check out my Overreaction Monday show that talked about Austin P and kind of what people are overreacting about, what people are maybe on point about. I broke it down. It's about 30 minutes. It's on Apple Podcasts right now. If you missed it, you can go grab it on YouTube, Dogs Down South, Apple Podcasts, Dogs Down South. And tonight I am live on TikTok as we speak. Now, TikTok is kind of on my left over here. I'm working a ton of screens. And so as the rooms and things of that nature fill up, I'm going to try to work through this the best I can, but also get you the content that you're looking for tonight. So, really, really exciting week. I know a lot of dog fans got to Monday and, it wasn't very exciting for you. Mondays are normally a little bit better because you're coming off of a Georgia win and you're able to look forward to a game on Saturday, and mixed feelings from people that I talked to so far this week. Obviously, coming off of things that they think we can work on from the Austin P game, as well as heading into Tennessee, and so definitely something that, in my opinion, that you know is a 50-50 thing. We're going to talk about a lot tonight. If you're joining over on TikTok, welcome in. I'm going to try to pay as much attention to the screen as possible and answer questions. I got a lot of hyped up TikTok fans this week, man. Some Georgia, some Tennessee. So I thought I was going to ask my guests tonight what some of the moments from the Austin P game that they just kind of wanted to reiterate and talk through. But I think I'll use this opportunity before we put Austin P to bed to go over some things that I went over in my overreaction show. Quick reactions. I did most of these, but I'll go through them real quickly. Obviously, turnovers against Austin P doesn't produce points, and so we should have probably produced 21 to 28 points off of turnovers. And I just think they weren't there. And I know Georgia fans are used to that 48-55 mark, which we should have been beating Austin P by, but we didn't. And so turnovers definitely didn't help that when Nate put the ball on the ground, as well as London put the ball on the ground. That's not going to help. Run game I thought was extremely physical. These are quick reactions. I, I I implore you, go and watch Austin Brooks, the film guy on YouTube. Sometimes we, as a fan, we start to watch the game and we don't really see a lot of the content that's critically going on around the game. And in my opinion, if you go watch every play and you go even check this guy out on YouTube, he breaks down every single, I think it's 66 offensive plays. And there is a lot to be excited about in the run game. I mean, last year, we were getting blown up on some things that were happening in the first two games that we looked so much better on tape with. And so it was encouraging to see. And I think you should go check it out too. I think Pass Pro, probably what you saw in Pass Pro, was just a lot of mental errors, things about that nature. I'm looking over here at TikTok. Wes, appreciate it, man. Yeah, Georgia by 10. I appreciate the comments, man. Thanks for coming in. Thanks for hanging out. We're gonna also get into picks tonight. We're also gonna talk Tennessee. Tons of stuff tonight. We talked a little bit about Kirby as well. And uh, you know if you're watching Kirby's pressers on Monday or Tuesday, depending on which, with holidays falling and things of that nature, some things he's continued to bring up are he's not looking into stats. He's not looking into, things that don't matter. He's looking into things that do matter, which is in these first two games, we got a ton of quality playing time for 80 to 90 combined guys. That is huge. I mean, that is absolutely huge. There was anywhere from 9 to I think 11 offensive linemen in two games that played, and that's I mean, in this day and age with NIL and portal, like that's so important to get these players some playing time when you can. And I don't think anything's going to divert Kirby from getting away from what needs to be done. So trusting the process over stats and things that just don't matter is huge to me. And so I talked about how unless athletically we just got whooped by an FCS team, it wasn't going to matter. He wasn't going to steer away from the game plan. Whereas some teams look to go in there and go, look, we're going to play our best starters. We're going to put 70 points on the board and we're going to make ourselves look great to everybody. But I do think you'll have a little bit of a different dynamic versus Tennessee, and we're going to talk about it. We talked about Gunner trusting the process and maybe checking down a little bit too quick on some of his reads and things of that nature. And then, one thing I did observe is that drops aren't happening, right? We had drops last year. We had, miscommunication on passes. We had, blatant just drops. I mean, there's no other way to explain it. I thought we've done a lot better in that in the first two games. You hadn't really heard that murmur coming out of the camp in Athens defense wise. Go check out this defense on tape. I mean, this could be, and I really back my comments up to the beginning of the year and say this could be one of our most talented defenses, at least secondaries, that Kirby will ever have. And yes, I'm saying it. Ellis Robinson, Janelle Aguaro, Bolden, um, Everett. I mean, I just think we're doing some really Kyron Jones. I think we're doing some really great things, Jacoby Thomas, in the secondary. We look really good. I mean, we haven't allowed a whole lot. I mean, FCS or not. Um, so I really like on film, we just look good, man. We're doing right things. We're in the right spots. A lot of young players are just in really just good spots on defense. So really, really encouraging to see. And then so breaking down the defense, gap focus I think was great all day long. We got a ton of really great push on the defensive line. Never really got settled. We tried to run some zone switch, which is not one of the things that we're built off of. We're a man defense type team, and so you could tell we ran some zone switch. And I think a couple of the plays that got 10 to 15 yards were on just some zone switch. I think we were working on stuff. I mentioned that in the overreaction show. Um, and I think we played a lot of bodies. I said it earlier. So those were some quick observations. But here's the thing, and I want to put Austin P to bed on this. It some days just aren't your days. I mean, a lot of people are going to look at Austin P and go, all right, if this is what we're looking for going into Tennessee and Alabama in this next stretch, it's going to be a long stretch. I'm with you. The score didn't show all that, but the score, I'm going to choose to look at the positive from all this, right? It's kind of my job to put you in a sense of, hey, sometimes what you see is just a facade with the score. Really, when you look down into what we produced on the field, even those stats and scores didn't come together. Wouldn't you much rather have those stats and scores come together against games with real big meaning, a la Tennessee and SEC games that are on our schedule later on? I think we got a lot from these first two games, a lot more than the score will lead on to. That's going to help us possibly get back to the SEC championship and in the playoffs and further. I just believe in that. I believe in Kirby with that, and so I just think some of the putting the ball on the ground and just kind of out of character. But I love what I see from. I'm a gunner. I back gunner, man. I'm a gunner guy. I also was a Stetson guy. A lot of people will tell you this. Before we won two national championships with Stetson Bennett, there were some people that were throwing Stetson Bennett under the bus. A lot of people calling for Carson Beck to come back. And you know what? At the end of the day, I wasn't a Carson hater. I was a Carson culture hater. But I mean, I didn't believe in what he brought to the team and the negative dynamic he brought to the team. And maybe it's been brought on better at Miami because Miami is a little bit more into all that stuff. And we'll see how the year progresses. They got some tough games on the schedule, but I do back Gunner. And that doesn't mean that there might not be a spot where if he just gets to a point where some of these things can't happen, that I don't back the fact that Kirby's going to have to do what's best for the team. I think Gunner would tell you they do what's best for the team. And I think he would be well on board with that. But I think right now it's way too early. I mean, uh, we didn't even have Gunner really in the run game. Like we didn't even have him attached to the run game like we did against Marshall, which I thought was a huge dynamic change. I mean, look how many touchdowns he scored in the run game. So all that being said, we're going to put Austin P to bed, chalk it up 28-6. And I think we'll go back and we'll look at that one kind of like we looked at Kent State, kind of like we looked at UAB, the years where, we made the playoff, won a national championship, things of that nature. We had those games. So Tennessee. So here we are, and I'm going to go ahead and hop straight in and tell you, I will be honest with you. I try to be as just cool, calm, and collective on TikTok. And if you're on TikTok right now, and you know, thank you everybody for the follows and all the likes, and I appreciate every time you hop on and you heart something and you comment on something. I'm not gonna blast back at you, right? You have every right for your opinion. I want you to have your opinion. I'm on these platforms to talk Georgia football and to talk college football. I love both. I just tend to love Georgia a little bit more. But at the end of the day, man, we got some fired up Tennessee fans, man. I mean, fired up Tennessee fans that are, the comments are, Aguilar is just better than Gunner, and he's gonna. I mean, I got these 40-7 and 40-14 comments, and Gunner's washed up and Georgia's done. I love that one. Georgia's done. Georgia's over. Man, all right. And my one comment I would say to this is I'm this is the only time you'll hear it, but we still own this series in the past 6 years. We have scores that say Georgia is kind of still on top of this series, at least lately, right? So if it were me, as I am coming in with, I would hope that Tennessee fans would humble themselves a little bit and understand that even though the offense hasn't looked the part, and even though the defense hasn't maybe been challenged with an offense like Tennessee or other defenses, other offenses in the SEC, I would humble myself a little bit because I'll be honest with you. Kirby says it all the time. You're only as good as your worst day, right? You're one day away from humble. So um, we're going to stay that way. My hopes are with Tennessee is that as we start to break down Tennessee tonight, is that dog fans can understand what we're going to be walking into on Saturday, because we're not only walking into Neyland Stadium and one of the toughest places to play in college football, with a great fan base, with a very electric atmosphere. It'll be 3:30 college game day. Will be there. Um, so it's going to be an exciting day. And I think these two teams have a lot to show still. I think when you look at Georgia playing Marshall and playing Austin P, and then Tennessee's hanging their hat on when we played Syracuse and we played East Tennessee State, and East Tennessee State. I don't know if I'd brag on that one. And then Syracuse. I mean, Syracuse had 70 to 80% of their roster turnover from last year. That was a really impressive team. I like Fran Brown. I think he's on the right track, but just like every team, they got to catch up with portal and with NIL and all things of that nature. Usually I can squeeze some water in with guests with me, but I'll have to do that every once in a while tonight. So bear with me. But I like Fran Brown, and I think Syracuse did some decent things against Tennessee. I don't think it was a complete wash, but I think talent alone, I think Tennessee just had too much for them. And kudos to Tennessee. They've had some good things. I watched that game back, and Tennessee had some really good things going on. But in my opinion, I think Tennessee just out physicaled um, Syracuse, and I don't think you're going to out physical Georgia on Saturday. So it will come down to a lot of things that we're going to talk about. Let's look at some things to look forward to. Obviously, number one on my list as we start to look at Tennessee, Joey Aguilar, quarterback, transfer, played at Appalachian State, also UCLA, coming in really, really solid numbers, 39 of 59 for 535 yards, with a 66% completion percentage and averaging about 9 yards a pass. The thing that jumps right into my head about Joey Aguilar is I'm impressed with not only his arm. He's good for this Josh Heupel offense. He's got a really quick, really efficient arm. Haven't really seen him throw the deep ball really a lot, and so I can't say if that's well. I mean, well is something that you have to see over and over and over, and I haven't seen it enough. But I will tell you, he does exactly what Josh Heupel wants to do in this offense. And so statistics are great. And these are, yes, Tennessee fans, these are over like maybe five, 6 quarters combined. So yeah, running backs, running back by committee is looking like what we're kind of looking at. I'm seeing Star Thomas, Deshaun Bishop, Peyton Lewis. These three names are coming up, combining for 24, 14, and 16 carries, 161, 150, and 57 yards. A lot of big averages, some long hits. Star Thomas is leading the way with the three touchdowns. And so, yeah, kind of very similar to Georgia in this capacity. Kind of a running back by committee, having some success with that, and I would say stick with that. Um, I've heard a lot about Mike Matthews, but I have Chris Brazel down here. 14 receptions, 187 yards, averaging 13 yards a catch, two TDs. He's flashed, but I've heard Matthews in the slot against Aguero is something to keep an eye on throughout the weekend. I'm highlighted linebacker Arian Carter for Tennessee. Um, five solo tackles, eight assists, a sack, and just really playing high level football for Tennessee. And then a name that's continued to come out of the Tennessee camp that maybe statistically right now is not one that's flashy is Colton Hood. So player to watch, up and coming for Tennessee. And so those are just a few names for Georgia fans in this Tennessee game. So let's talk about like a storyline to watch. Okay. So, one of the big things coming into this week was Tennessee's not expected to have their starting two cornerbacks, Jermod McCoy and Ricky Gibson the third for this game. This is huge, right? I think one of the biggest parts of this matchup where you can maybe I don't know. I don't know if you can hang your hat on it completely, but it will be in my what it's going to take to win. But keep an eye on these young wide receivers. I'm sorry, these young cornerbacks with this wide receiver core for Georgia. I think it could come into play in this game to make a huge difference. And I'm looking forward to watching this because I think this can be a key. But those two guys being out definitely um, does not help. I think when you look at the storyline of what needs to happen for Georgia, not necessarily just a win, but just in general for Georgia and what has been the Tennessee teams of old, I think one of the biggest thing that gets a lot of people against Tennessee is linebackers and secondary discipline with their eyes. Gap integrity is huge against Tennessee. They try to spread you out. They try to play the numbers game. You have to tackle really well. This is a thing that has really boded well for CJ Allen in the past 2 years. Is he's been a guy that has really done a great job of being able to play one on one in the box as they spread that thing out and try to play numbers. And our linebackers, being one of our solid groups, has in the last 2-3 years has been able to become a big reason why Georgia's been successful about Tennessee in the past few years, as well as the defensive line play. I think it's huge when this is an offense that strives off of, yes, it's a quick passing, you know, uh, want to catch you off guard, a lot of trickery, want to do some different things to stretch you and expose you type passing game, but it's all built off the run. If the run can get consistent, the faster they can move, the faster they can get first downs, the faster they can get you tired. And they practice like this every single day. Like this is what their practices look like. They don't huddle much at all. And so as we're going to see in the next thing, Heupel offenses, this has been something that has actually been not good for Josh Heupel against Georgia in the last few years. You know, if an offense can't get a first down, you're going to give a lot of possessions to the other offense in this system if it can't run the ball, if it can't move the sticks, and if it can't get first downs. And this is what Josh Heupel's run into, and also the inability to stretch the field. Big matchups in reverse is kind of, we talked about Georgia's wide receiving core versus Tennessee's young secondary. I think you can flip the script and look at the talent from Tennessee at the wide receiver position against the cornerbacks in the secondary. Bolden, Ellis Robinson. I just think these guys. I just think they've looked really good the first two games, and there's a lot of things that are going to happen out there that are going to make or break the game. Can they stretch the field? And the team that stretches the field the most, and in my opinion, establishes a run, has a really good opportunity to do really well in this game. Um, Dalen Everett as well, I did not mention, who I thought looked really well Saturday. I thought the defense in all, go look at the film. I think the defense did a really good job. What I noticed about Aguilar, Aguilar has really good legs. I think he consistently different than Gunner. I think he's looking for to throw the ball 90% of the time, and then he just has the ability to be able to pull it and make something out of nothing, which I felt like there were some design runs for Gunner against Marshall, but I felt like what some dog fans didn't understand either is we were about 95% drop back against Austin Peay. You saw no hardly, I mean, um, barely any. I don't say shotgun. We ran a lot of the we weren't under center a lot, but we didn't get into any looks that could give option look that could give any kind of it was just a lot of drop back stuff. Period. And so that, in my opinion, was clearly Kirby and Bobo trying to say, look, we really want you to focus on just reading the defense this week, right? I think if we line up and we get into some of those formations that we got in against Marshall and we do what we did against Marshall, I do think you see the right score. But once again, like I said earlier, trusting the process that Kirby's going through is to get him more reps in 4 quarters against Austin Peay to use it to prepare against the SEC teams. If you're not using those games where you're paying all this money out of these FCS teams to come in and play you, if you're not using those reps to better yourself, then what are we doing? Because I think we know that maybe Georgia could have got in there and ran the ball, I don't know, 85% of the time and made Gunner dual threat the entire time. And yeah, we'd have the score that Georgia fans wanted. I don't know if we would have had the process that Georgia would have wanted to make that transfer into other SEC games. Defense, fast. This is another fast Tennessee defense. I think it lacks the size and the depth they've had in the past. I think definitely the defense is one of the ones that got hit the hardest in the portal. And please forgive me, I'm trying to keep up as much as possible. I'm seeing your comments in here. Thoughts on Scott Frost coming back to UCF? Yeah, it's kind of a little out of the box right now. I would tell you that UCF's got a little bit to go to get back to where they were when before he left. I agree with it. I think it's a safe call for UCF, but just wanted to get that one off topic. What's up, uh, Big Stack? How are you, Southwest Georgia? What part of Southwest Georgia? Um, and then this, in my opinion, this would be one of Josh Heupel's best coaching moments, right? I feel like this is kind of a year like Kirby had last year. New quarterback, even though Beck was there 2 years in the system, but different look of the offense. Didn't really know losing Dylan Sampson what they would look like at running back. At one point, they only had 6 or 7 wide receivers that were actually scholarship wide receivers that were healthy during fall. And obviously the injuries at cornerback. So this is one of the things where if you look at Heupel, the good thing about Heupel in Tennessee is their schedule really lines up to benefit them a lot. Yes, they play Georgia. They may be getting Florida in a year where it's good to get Florida. So this is kind of pairing up just right for Tennessee. And I think Tennessee's getting Georgia maybe where they want them. I mean, I don't think Tennessee wants to get Georgia in October or November. So yeah, that's just my take. And the last thing I'm going to say is I do think for all my Tennessee fans that Tennessee definitely won the quarterback lottery. I think Nico was a blessing in disguise for you guys. I think him getting out of Dodge and getting to UCLA and you guys getting Aguilar was probably really good for you. So if Georgia can run the ball on Tennessee, it's over. I agree. I think it's one of the key things. We're going to mention it before we do our picks tonight. So let's look at the keys to win real quick. So I think Georgia fans want to look and go like, what do we got to do to come out of Knoxville with a win? I'm going to slow it down a little bit for you and tell you that there's a lot of things that I look forward to about this game every single time we play Tennessee because it's probably been some of the most dramatic moments as I was coming up as a teenager, seeing these Georgia-Tennessee games. Coming through when Manning was there and all these other things, and the hobnail boot and all the just so many memories of times when I've watched this Georgia Tennessee game and Georgia's been on the bad end of the stick. And there's a lot of bad memories that come to mind if, if we don't come out of there with a win, having to deal with, them, taking the goalpost down and, running it down there to the river and all these other thoughts go through your mind. But I will say this, at the end of the day, I do think Kirby has a methodical plan about how he goes about doing things. And here's the things I will say to weave into keys to win the game, is that Kirby knows what he's doing. There's not a whole lot on tape. There's just not. Yeah, there's some run stuff on there, zone read, you got, some bubble screens, you got some dump downs, you got some things. I mean, for Georgia to be able to get 2 victories and come out unscathed, um, and not show much of the playbook on offense and to be semi healthy. I mean, yeah, we took some, Ernest Green and and Juan Gaston are definitely, they hurt last week, but I think they're going to be fine. I think if we chose to keep them out, it would have been against Austin P. But we rotated about 9 to 10 different offensive linemen on Saturday. I mean, DeAndre Glover, true freshman. I mean, anybody heard about Glover before then? I didn't even have Glover on my third, side of the depth chart in my early depth chart preview for the year. And Glover looked really good at times. He had some really aggressive, just really aggressive and in your face blocks. I mean, I can't say enough about the offensive line and run. I think if we run the ball, we're going to be fine against Tennessee. So that leads into number one, offense. And you said it over here, I think on TikTok. Georgia's got to Georgia's got to establish it early. I do think Tennessee is going to load the box. I think they're going to load the box, play man, and try to make Gunner um, win this game in some aspects. But I do think Kirby knows that. I think what you're going to see a lot during the week is you're going to see full boxes. You're going to see, our team have to run block against full boxes. And so that's huge right off the gut. Stockton has to be involved in the run game. I think when you look at the game plan, I think Stockton and what you saw against Marshall was something that I think was planned. I think all along he's going to be involved in the run game, and I think that was a taste once again to flash it on film what people can expect possibly from this. But if you look at what was produced game one against Marshall, what was produced game two against Austin P, two completely different offensive game plans. Not to mention the fact that both of those defenses, Marshall and Austin P, are running similar defensive sets that you're going to see across the SEC. A lot of man, a lot of zone switch, a lot of bringing, a lot of disguise and camouflaging and bringing different concepts from different places, which is the new norm in the SEC on defense. Run to set up play action. That's where Gunner is going to show off. If we can establish the run, that's where he's going to get the freedom to get the passing yards that I think the Georgia fan base is looking for. I think being able to establish the run, get into plays where we can play action and stretch the field. Maybe not even stretch the field. We got some game changers that if they catch the ball within an 8 to 12 foot radius yard radius, I think they can turn it up. I mean, Branch has shown he's electric with the ball in hand. I think Dylan Bell is a strong runner with the ball in hand. I've yet to see Noah Thomas and Colby Young, turn it loose. We got some tight ends who are just waiting to get out there and be targeted. And I think they were targeted last Saturday. I just think they were the second and third progression that I don't know if we got to a ton of times. I mean, there was plenty of times where Humphreys or Delp or Jalen Riddell was running down the sideline wide open, and we just didn't get to that check. And so, unfortunately, that never kind of transpired. I'm peeking over. Um, do you actually think Georgia is going to be good this year? I mean, we'll see, right? I mean, I love these comments, man, because I talked about these on my TikTokers, man. They're like, I mean, I don't know. You're just talking about a team who consistently, I mean, do you see we have the 33rd, like 33 home wins in a row? I don't know. Maybe that's you. Maybe you're the new person in the chat, and I'm just missing it. Maybe you have no idea who Georgia is. Um, so and then best line play for us thus far has to happen on Saturday. They're gonna be ready to go. They're gonna gear up some really great blitz schemes. They're gonna try to do some things to throw us off, get us off time. This has to be one of the best line plays, especially on the road, that we've had all year. Easy check on that. Defense, limit chunk plays. I think when you look at what Tennessee wants to do, they want to get you in chunks. They want to gash the middle. They want to play the numbers game inside. They would love to catch the ball in space and catch the ball in four to create 12 to 20. I think we have to tackle well. I think we have to have incredible gap integrity. And that's going to be huge. Linebacker eyes. Got to stay true. You can't be fooled by all this tomfoolery going on. You can't be fooled by all these receivers doing all these exotic things. They're just eye candy. Tennessee is known to throw some eye candy out there and see what they can get you looking at, so they can see what they can get out of what you're not looking at. DBs will be the game changer. I think one of the biggest objectives is to get these great defensive backs, the Ellis Robinsons, the Boldens, the Ja'Cory Thomases, the Joel Aguaros, to get these guys, Dalen Everett, get them into a game where they're physical, and they've looked really, really good the first two games. You go check it out. You don't have to take my opinion for it. I gave you a site to go check it out, play for play. You can go look at 66 plays right now on the film guy, Austin Brooks. He breaks it down, and we have some absolute monsters on defense this year, and I'm gonna kind of go over that before we do our picks tonight. But and then create havoc, force turnovers. This is one that's a given, right? I think we got to get a lot of pressure right up the gut. I mean, I just love. I mean, you hadn't heard a lot about our defensive line in fall camp, and I would say they went a little bit unnoticed. They went a little bit unnoticed as far as the first 2 weeks. But man, Christian Miller, just an unselfish player, man. Like he's just always in the right position. He's always doing the right things. He's always doing the things up there to set the team up for success, whether it be, making sure he's in his lane so somebody else can get the tackle or the sack, or, he's not about statistics. He's about the process. And I think Christian Miller is going to be, a top 3, top 4 round pick, in my opinion. What keeps Christian Miller sometimes from, he doesn't have that great, interior speed sometimes that the NFL is looking for. But I think Christian Miller is one of the smartest, players that I've ever seen on the defensive line at Georgia, and that's the truth. Elijah Griffin, man, this is Elijah Griffith is a first. His future is a first round pick. His future might be a top 5 pick. He just does some things that are well beyond his years already. His first step is so aggressive and just so nasty. He's twitchy, man. He gives that defensive line a different dynamic, and he was in that backfield. I know what you're going to say. It's against Austin Peay, but he was in that backfield a lot on Saturday. He was causing some havoc. He was wrecking some things, and I think he's going to be a key contributor. I think Jordan Hall is coming around. It's nice to see him healthy. It's nice to see our D line rotating. Xavier McLeod has looked good so far. This defense is going to be. I mean, it's something that a lot of people are mentioning against Tennessee. I think we put a defense on the field that's going to make Tennessee have to play perfect on offense in order to score a lot of points. And so I'm excited about that. We're gonna do some picks. I'm gonna try to flash over here while we're doing that to TikTok and look at some things. Dogs 24/7 says, "Oh yeah, go Dogs!" Absolutely. I got some Tennessee comments over here. Thoughts on Miami? I probably still have my header up there from. My header is from my top 25 show on TikTok, so my apologies, but we are just hitting the Dogs versus Tennessee tonight. I'm logging in right now. We're going to do some picks. This is going to be fun. We're going to hop around the SEC and do some picks. That'll be fun. And then I'm going to give my final thoughts tonight before we end the show. If you have not already done so and you're hopping in and hopping out, go Big Orange. Love it. Love that for you guys. I would ask of you, if you have not already done so, go to Apple Podcasts, Dogs Down South. We have 72 episodes over there. A lot of great content from the fall. A lot of great content leading up to this game. Overreaction Monday is on there. Our follow-up from Marshall and our follow up from Austin P is on there. Gunner ain't got nothing on that Tennessee defense. That defense is young, man. I'm gonna let you have that though. Um, I think you might need to look and see if Aguilar has anything on the Georgia defense. That's what I would do, but that's just me. Um, Logging in right now. My deepest apologies. They're asking me, do I want all types of stuff to buy, things of that nature. Welcome in, everybody. As I was saying, make sure you go follow and like us, Apple Podcasts. This episode will be out 24 hours later. We're live on TikTok, Dogs Down South. If you haven't already done so, please go drop a like and a follow. Also on YouTube, Dogs Down South. Trying to get to that 1,000 follower mark on YouTube, so please hit us up over there. We're on Facebook, Dogs Down South, and Spotify, Dogs Down South. So let's hop in. Let's make some picks as we get into this weekend's action. We'll hop into the SEC. We usually pick all the SEC games, and then we'll do a couple of the big games that are on tap. And then we'll, of course, I'll pick the Georgia-Tennessee game, and then we'll see how it all pans out. All right, let's hop into SEC play. If you want to do so, if you're following along on TikTok, happy to hear your picks and your whys as well. So we got number 13, Oklahoma, heading to Temple. This is a 12 o'clock game, ESPN2 down in Norman. Man, Oklahoma coming off that big win this past weekend against Michigan. Man, a lot of things. I told you Oklahoma will be a sleeper, and they definitely have their test coming next week. I think it's next week against Auburn. But until then, they get Temple. Temple's 2-0. Oklahoma is getting 23.5 points. I'm pretty sure Oklahoma is going to have this game. They got to go to Temple, which is a weird scenario. You usually see a Temple possibly. Thought this might be maybe it's a home and home, I guess. But I do think that John Mateer and Oklahoma prevail in this game, and I do think they cover in that game. 12 o'clock, Wisconsin going down to number 19, Alabama. I would tell you that maybe last year when this game was kind of brought out that I would probably look at this and go, this might be a good game. Although I've seen some improvements here and there. I'm hearing that the Wisconsin quarterback might be out for this game. This will be 12 o'clock ABC kickoff, and Alabama's getting 21.5 on Wisconsin. I think Alabama continues to roll at home, and then they'll get a week off, and then they'll get Georgia in Athens. That'll be a big game. But I do think Alabama wins this game, and I do think they probably. I don't know. With them not having the quarterback, it depends on if the quarterback for Wisconsin plays. I do think Alabama wins this game easily. 12:45, South Alabama heads down to number 24, Auburn in Jordan-Hare Stadium. It's an SEC network game. Auburn's getting 25.5 on South Alabama. I would tell you a couple of years ago, this South Alabama team had a really pretty good little team. I followed them a little bit because they were, pretty good in my opinion. Hasn't been the same since then. I do think Auburn wins this game, and it takes Auburn to 3-0. And this sets up a really big game next week. I'm pretty sure, if I'm guessing this right, I'm not guessing. I'm pretty sure that Auburn plays Oklahoma next week. But give me Auburn in this one. I don't know if Auburn covers. I don't know. Yeah. So sorry, I was catching up with some comments. 4 o'clock, Missouri, Louisiana, Raging Cajuns, number 25, Missouri, 2-0, coming off their big win last week against Kansas. It's 27.5 on the Raging Cajuns. I do think the Raging Cajuns cover on this one. I'm sorry. I think Missouri covers on this one and takes care of the Raging Cajuns. No match for Missouri. Missouri goes to 3-0. They cover 27.5. They get the win. 4:15 SEC Network, Texas and UTEP. UTEP is 1-1 coming in. Texas 1-1 with their only loss being to Ohio State. This is at Memorial Stadium, and we all said this, that Texas is going to have a couple games where they get to beat up on some teams before they play Florida. This is one of those games. I think Texas wins this handily. I don't know if Texas covers. Even last week, I mean, nobody was barking about Texas last week, not covering last week, but they're barking about Georgia. Arch had some. I know there's been some questions about his arch hurt. Like he had a moment where he was trying to throw and looked a little twingy, and Sarkeesian had a little comment this week, and he talked about something about I don't freak out about every face or whatever you make on the toilet or something like that. So it's classic Sarkeesian, man. After that first loss this year, man, that's kind of turned Sarkeesian and having some Nick Saban moments. Texas takes care of business. I don't think they cover. That's just me. 6 o'clock, ESPN SEC Network, Mississippi State coming off their big win against the ranked number 12 Arizona State team playing Alcorn State. Man, man, this is I mean, Mississippi State goes to 3-0, right? This is one that I'm not sure a lot of people have Mississippi State beating Arizona State. I myself didn't either. But I think they take care of Alcorn State, and it puts Mississippi State at 3-0, which is I don't know if a lot of people have Mississippi State at 3-0 starting the year. And so it's a 6 o'clock game on ESPN down there in Cowbellville. They'll get the win over Alcorn State. 7 o'clock, ESPN, Ole Miss and Arkansas. I just had a Arkansas skinny. I got you right here, man. I do think Arkansas wins this game. I'll tell you why. I think that when you get into, if I'm looking at Austin Simmons and I'm looking at Talon Green, man, give me Talon Green. I think Talon Green is an incredible talent. I think he has incredible arm talent. I think he's a great, he's an elusive type. You almost got like a running back with a really great arm back there. He's smart kids, been with Arkansas, Petrino's offense. I mean, it's all setting up for you know, one of those, what do I call it? Lane Kiffin trilogy type shakedowns in Ole Miss, hotty toddy. I think Arkansas gets it done. I think Pittman gets a big win, 7 o'clock, ESPN. Talon Green shows out on national television on a primetime game. Give me Arkansas by 4. I got them 28-24. 7:30, Florida. I am going to pick that game. Georgia Bulldogs, hang around. I'm going to pick it here in just a little bit. 7:30, Florida, LSU. LSU comes in 2-0. Florida coming in off of the loss to USF. Man, tough week for Billy Napier. Tough week for Billy Napier. He took a lot of questions whether he was the right coach for this team, whether the game plan was right. Should he not be calling the plays? Why didn't Jaden Ball run the ball more? What was going on with the defense? You name it, it happened. This has been a tough week, and they probably have the biggest stretch of games coming up that I could say to pile on top of that loss is not going to be any easier. You got to go to man, this is tough. To Death Valley, 7:30, Tiger Stadium, Baton Rouge. Number 3, LSU. Man, they got LSU at 7.5, and I think this could be the start of what begins to be the unraveling of Billy Napier at Florida. I think Florida does not have a chance in this game, especially if the game plan is the same as it was against. Just take a little piece out of LSU needs to take a little piece out of that USF playbook, and I think this is going to be LSU covers. I think they win by a couple of scores in Baton Rouge. 7:30, Texas A&M, Notre Dame, big game. The Irish Texas A&M come into South Bend up in Notre Dame. Notre Dame is a 6.5-point favorite. I would typically have told you that I like Texas A&M in this, but I haven't liked how Texas A&M has looked against some of these teams that they've played. They got to go on the road. They got to play a tough Notre Dame team. I'm going to give the edge to Notre Dame in this one. I like Notre Dame in this one. I do think Miami was played tough against Notre Dame. So give me Notre Dame in the points on this one. I think Notre Dame wins against Texas A&M. 7:30, Kentucky, Eastern Michigan. It's a game that Kentucky has to get. They don't have many of these has to gets this year. And for Stoops and his job, he has to get this win. And so Eastern Michigan comes calling 0-2, not at a better time. I think for the biggest thing for Kentucky it needs to be convincing. It needs to be something where at least against an Eastern Michigan, Calzada is showing a little bit more poise, a little bit more ability to move the football, more consistency, more better defensive play. Do I think they played well against Ole Miss? Yeah, but I also think both of those teams played a little sluggish. So even Ole Miss, but I'm going to give the edge to Kentucky. I don't know if Kentucky covers. I don't think Kentucky covers, and I'm just going to call it as it is. Kentucky wins though and goes to 2-1. 7:45, South Carolina and Vanderbilt. I'm liking South Carolina. First game was a little sluggish to me against Virginia Tech. I didn't like what I saw. The Lenora Sellers numbers weren't as high as I thought they would be, but I'm not going to be a naysayer. And I would tell you that I've talked about the process over numbers, just like Kirby has. And I think South Carolina gets it done. Although Pavia is on his redemption tour and he says that Vanderbilt's going to win a national championship this year, this would go along with the fact of maybe this is why South Carolina is only favored by 6.5. But I think, man, it's going to be loud. It's going to be crazy down there. Up there at Williams-Brice Stadium in Columbia, South Carolina. I think South Carolina gets it done at home, and that's just kind of what I think. We're about 2 games away from picking the Georgia game right here, and I'll tell you my reasons why I'm making the pick. But really quick, we're going to hop in and grab some of the big games around the rest of the league. Clemson, Georgia Tech. I love this game right here. Clemson, Georgia Tech. Nebraska upsets Michigan next week. Book it. Probably happens. 12 o'clock, Clemson goes to Georgia Tech. I like Georgia Tech this year, man. This is a this is a much needed game for Brett Key and Georgia Tech. And if Georgia Tech gets this game, look out. Look out. I think Clemson's going to play a little bit hyped. They're going to be a little bit more faster out of the gates. I do think Clemson gets this win, but I think it's going to be really tight. I think the 3.5 is a tale of what may happen. But I do have Clemson winning this game. Give me Clemson and 4. I think they do cover barely. Miami, South Florida, down in Miami Gardens, Florida, Hard Rock Stadium. I like UCF, man. And you know what? I would tell you this. I told myself that for the rest of the year, if it was a ranked game and a big game, and I know who these games are that USF's playing, they're right down the road from me here in Tampa. And so I got USF in an upset on this one. I don't care what you say. Yes, I see 18.5 points. Yes, I see them at Hard Rock Stadium. I got USF. I got Golish. I think they're on fire, and I think they're on a little bit of a dream season this year. So give me USF in an upset. That's my upset pick of the week. Probably calling me crazy, but it just is what it is, man. And then the Georgia game. So Georgia Tennessee. So keys to victory for Georgia. I think right now. I think Georgia's getting 3.5. I'm not really worried about the spread. I talked about keys to victory. Here's where I think the matchups are going to come down to. So I think these young receivers from Tennessee against this secondary of Georgia, which I think could be the best secondary Georgia's had in Kirby's tenure. So I look at that matchup. Where do I think the matchup is that they could turn the tables upside down? I think that Mike Matthews, Janelle Aguero matchup in the slot will be key to watch. I think the eye integrity and the ability to get pressure on Aguilar and to cover and to stop the run will be huge for Georgia's defense. And on offense for Georgia, I think the ability to run the football as well, and also to be able to hit some play action plays, get Gunner involved in the run game is going to be huge. But primarily, it comes down to this Georgia defense against this Tennessee offense. And I just think this Georgia defense has a little bit more than Tennessee has to offer on offense. Aguilar hasn't played in a big game yet. I think when you look at this, even though they're at home, as much as they can get Joey Aguilar rattled and have to get these young players in a position where they got to win the game, it could create some turnovers. You create some negative plays, and you keep Tennessee's offense off the field because of this hurry up offense, and create more times for Georgia to be able to run the football. I think that's what it comes down to. I'm saying Georgia in this, and I'm going to give them 10 points. I'm calling 27-17 Georgia. Goes into Neyland, gets a win, gets a big win against Tennessee, then gets an off week and comes into to Athens. Then Alabama comes into Athens 2 weeks, which we're not looking at. And aren't they doing the checkered Neyland? Let's go. Okay, cool. Just catching up on TikTok. Hey, thank you guys for joining. I will say this. I really, really appreciate everyone, especially I have the TikTok platform. I usually don't have the TikTok platform rolling on our live shows, but I appreciate all the support over on TikTok. Thank you. Please, if you're popping in, like and follow Dogs Down South, Apple Podcasts, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, Spotify, and all podcasting platforms. And I'm looking forward to possibly this week sometime hopping on, just doing a little AP Top 25 show this week. But thank you all for joining. It's been a true pleasure, and I'm looking so forward to this game this weekend against Tennessee, and hopes for a big dogs victory. I hope our fans show up out of Athens and take over Tennessee in a big way. And I'm excited, as I hope all dog fans are. So for myself and for all my missing partners tonight, as I went solo, we missed you. But dog fans, you guys have a great week. Can't wait to see you in Knoxville on Saturday. And as always on Dogs Down South, go dogs.